1. The man under my deck. When I was 16, I spent most of my summer evenings in our backyard, either grilling burgers, practicing guitar, or just lying on a lawn chair with my phone and a soda. We lived in a quiet cul-de-sac in Oregon, the kind of place where neighbors wave even if you don't know their names. One evening around 9:30, I was sitting outside scrolling through TikTok when I heard what sounded like someone tapping wood under the deck. At first, I figured it was raccoons or maybe a possum. But then came something that froze my spine: breathing. Slow, shallow, human breathing. I turned my phone's flashlight on and leaned over the deck railing, pointing the beam toward the steps. "Hello?" I called out. No response. But then something moved. I couldn't see clearly, just the edge of a black shoe disappearing under the structure. I backed away and went inside, locking the sliding door. I told my dad, and he stepped outside with a bat, but he didn't find anyone. No shoe. No prints. Nothing. The next night, I stayed in my room. Around 1 a.m., I was just about to fall asleep when I got a text from a random number. "You didn't say goodbye." I deleted it immediately. Probably a prank, right? 2 days later, I was alone again. My parents were at a wedding across town, and I had no plans. Around 10:15 p.m., I was in the kitchen when I heard footsteps on the deck, not under it this time. On it. I killed the lights and crept toward the back window, lifting a corner of the curtain just enough to peek. Someone was standing there, facing the sliding door. Completely still. It wasn't a burglar. He wasn't trying to get in. He was just watching. He had no visible weapon, just a hoodie and jeans. But it was the posture. His head slightly tilted, like he was trying to listen through the glass. I called 911 with shaking hands. Whispered every word. While I was still on the line, the figure slowly turned and walked off the deck toward the side gate. The dispatcher told me to stay inside and wait for officers. When they arrived 20 minutes later, they found the gate open. But here's the worst part: wedged between the boards of the deck was a folded piece of paper with my name on it. Just my name. Written in perfect block letters. The back of it said, "You hear me breathing." To this day, we don't know who it was. But after that, I refused to be alone at night for a long time. I also haven't sat on that deck since. 2. The face in the storage unit. Last fall, I rented a storage unit 2 towns over. I was moving out of my apartment and needed a temporary place to keep my things while crashing with my sister. The place was cheap, 24-hour access, and about as boring and gray as you'd expect: endless rows of metal roll-up doors and flickering overhead lights. I always went there late. After 10 p.m., fewer people, less traffic, and honestly, I liked the quiet. One night, I pulled up a little before midnight. I had a few boxes to drop off. When I got out of the car, I noticed something weird. One of the units down the aisle was already open, just a few feet, maybe a foot and a half. Enough to crawl under. It wasn't mine, so I ignored it. Probably someone just forgot to shut it all the way. As I rolled open my own unit, I heard a strange squeak echo behind me. I turned and looked. That same door had closed another inch or two. Not slammed, not forced. Just moved. I stopped. Waited. Nothing. I unloaded the boxes as fast as I could, trying not to let my imagination take over. But when I turned to close my unit, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. From the cracked open unit down the aisle, I saw a face. Not fully. Just the lower half. Like someone lying on the cold concrete floor and peeking out from underneath. Lips. Chin. Nose. Eyes completely hidden in the dark. And the mouth was smiling. Not a friendly smile either. A long, strained, joyless stretch of teeth. I stood frozen for a second. I wanted to believe it was a trick of the light, some reflection, but then the lips moved. "Close yours," they whispered. I slammed my unit shut and sprinted to my car. Peeled out of there so fast I nearly crashed into the gate. I told the front desk guy the next morning. He was a retired vet who didn't seem surprised. "That same unit?" he asked, without me saying the number. He sighed. "Guy used to live in there after hours. Homeless vet. Died last winter. Heart attack." "But someone rented it since then," I said. He looked me dead in the eye. "No. No one's touched that one. It's still sealed." "You sure it was open?" I nodded slowly. He showed me the camera footage. The cameras caught me entering. But when he rewound to the unit I pointed at, the door was shut the whole time. Completely shut. Not even a crack. But I know what I saw. And worse, I know what saw me. 3. She knew my name before I said it. This happened when I was visiting my grandparents' lake house in Michigan last August. It's a quiet, secluded area, just a few homes scattered around a private lake surrounded by forest. I went for a walk one evening around 6 p.m., just to clear my head. There's a trail that loops around the far side of the lake, where the trees grow thicker and you stop seeing any houses. I had my earbuds in, but no music playing. I like listening to the sounds of the forest. After about 10 minutes on the trail, I noticed someone walking ahead of me. A woman. She had long black hair, a long beige coat, and was barefoot, walking slowly. At first, I thought she was just a local. Until she stopped walking. I mean, completely froze. She didn't turn. She didn't look back. Just stood there in the middle of the trail like she had shut off. I slowed down, unsure if I should pass her or turn around. Then she spoke, quietly, but clearly. "Don't keep walking, Noah." I stopped cold. My name is Noah. And I had never seen this woman before in my life. I stared at her back. "Do I know you?" I asked, my voice cracking. She didn't respond. I took one cautious step forward. Then she turned around. But something was wrong. Her head turned first, slowly, and her body followed just a second too late. Like she was lagging. Her face was pale, too pale. Her eyes were completely black. And she smiled like she knew something I didn't. "Your time's running out," she said, and began walking toward me. I turned and ran. Didn't look back once. Nearly rolled my ankle on a tree root but kept sprinting until I saw the back of my grandparents' house through the woods. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't tell my grandparents either. Didn't want them to think I was having some kind of breakdown. The next morning, I went out to the trail again with my phone recording. I didn't find her. But near where I saw her, nailed to a tree, was a laminated missing person poster. It was her. She went missing in 2017. And here's the part one haven't told anyone. On the back of the poster, written in Sharpie, was one word. Noah. 4. The thing in the baby monitor. My sister and her husband asked me to house sit and watch their newborn while they took a weekend trip for their anniversary. They live in a nice house in upstate New York, surrounded by woods. Quiet, peaceful, too quiet, honestly. The baby, Oliver, was just 4 months old and slept in a crib in the upstairs nursery. They gave me a baby monitor with video and audio, so I could keep an eye on him from the guest room downstairs. The first night went fine, fed him, rocked him, he fell asleep by 9:30. I turned on the monitor and placed it on the nightstand. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to static. Not crying. Just static. I sat up and looked at the screen. Oliver was still in his crib, but the picture was slightly glitched, like flickering. It wasn't the Wi-Fi. The signal was strong. I watched closely and noticed something that made my blood run cold. There was movement behind the crib. Just a shadow. Not human-sized. Small, crouched, and it moved too fast for any explanation I could give myself. I stared at the screen, completely still, as it slowly faded back into darkness. The baby didn't cry. Didn't even stir. Just lay there peacefully, as if nothing was wrong. I told myself it was a camera error. Maybe a reflection. I turned the monitor off and didn't sleep again. The next night, it happened again. This time, I left the monitor on mute, but glanced at the screen just before midnight. Same thing. Shadow in the corner. But this time, it was standing. I could see the outline clearly, a long, narrow figure with limbs that bent the wrong way. It was facing the crib. Facing the baby. I bolted upstairs, heart pounding. Swung the door open. Nothing. No shadow. No figure. Just Oliver, sleeping calmly. But here's the part that still haunts me. When I picked him up, he was ice cold. His eyes opened and looked past me. Not at me. Like something was behind me. I turned slowly. There was nothing in the room. I left every light on that night and slept with Oliver in the living room, monitor unplugged. The next morning, I told my sister everything. She went pale. She said sometimes, when they check the monitor in the middle of the night, they see Oliver smiling, not baby smiling, but full teeth. He doesn't have any teeth yet. They don't use the monitor anymore. And I've never gone back. 5. The basement door that wasn't there yesterday. When I moved into my new apartment last year, I was just relieved to find something affordable and close to work. It was an old brownstone, split into 2 units. Mine was on the ground floor. Nothing fancy, but cozy enough. The layout was simple: living room, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, that's it. Or so I thought. One night, about 3 weeks after moving in, I came home around midnight after a late shift. I threw my keys on the counter, kicked off my shoes, and went to the kitchen to grab water. That's when I noticed something strange. There was a door. A door that hadn't been there the day before. It was tucked between the fridge and the wall, small, with a brass knob, slightly crooked on its hinges. I stared at it for a good 30 seconds, trying to make sense of it. I even went back to my phone and checked the video I took of my empty kitchen the day I moved in. No door. I opened it. It led to a narrow staircase going down. Stone walls. Cold air hit my face like something had been trapped down there for years. I turned on my phone flashlight and took a few steps. The stairs creaked under me. The deeper I went, the colder it got, and the smell changed. Like wet earth and something metallic. Old. I heard something down there. Not movement. Not voices. Breathing. I froze. It was deep, slow, and steady. Not mine. It was coming from around the corner at the base of the stairs. Just out of sight. Then I heard 3 knocks. Loud. Close. Coming from the other side of the wall at the bottom. I ran back up, slammed the door, and moved the fridge in front of it. Didn't sleep that night. The next day, I called my landlord and asked about it. He paused for a long time, then said, "That unit doesn't have a basement." I told him I found a staircase. He said again, firmly, "There is no basement." When I got home from work that evening, the fridge was still in place. But the door? Gone. Completely. Like it was never there. But every night since then, around midnight, I hear 3 knocks from somewhere behind the kitchen wall. And I don't know what scares me more, the sound, or the fact that it's getting louder. 6. The stranger in my Zoom class. During lockdown, I took all my college classes online. Most were boring lectures or awkward group projects, but one class, digital anthropology, required us to keep our cameras on for participation. It was a small class, maybe 12 of us total. The professor was chill, older guy named Dr. Harding. Every Monday and Thursday at 4 p.m., we'd all log into Zoom, greet each other, and begin. Everything was normal, until one day, there was an extra box. Not someone new, just a blank screen. The name under the window said, just 3 dots. The professor paused and said, looks like someone's having connection issues. But nobody admitted to inviting anyone new. We moved on. The next class, the same box was there. Still blank. Still. By the 3rd class, it had its camera on. But the screen was pitch black. You could just barely make out the outline of a room, maybe a ceiling. No face, no movement. Just silence. We were all creeped out. One girl, Emma, unmuted and said, "Okay, who is that?" Seriously? No one answered. Then the screen flickered. For a split second, we all saw it, a man's face, inches from the camera. Pale. Eyes wide. Mouth stretched in a grin that didn't move. Then it cut to black again. The professor ended the meeting immediately. He emailed us later saying there was probably a security issue and he'd send a new Zoom link for future classes. The next session, with the new link, everything seemed fine. Until 20 minutes in, the box reappeared. No one admitted to sharing the new link. The professor seemed shaken but tried to ignore it. Then Emma screamed. We all looked at her window. She unmuted and said, "He's in my dorm." She held up her phone. It showed her dorm hallway. The lights were flickering. A tall man in dark clothes was standing just outside her door. She disconnected. The screen went black. We tried calling her, texting her, no response. Campus security said her room was empty when they got there 5 minutes later. Her phone was found on the floor, still recording, facing the door. She never came back to class. And the window? It still showed up. Every class. Even now, a year later, I'll randomly check my old Zoom history and see that users still listed. Still watching. No one ever figured out how they got in. Or how they knew where she lived. 7. My friend's voice came from the wrong room. I used to live in a 4-bedroom house during my sophomore year of college with 3 close friends, Tyler, Ben, and Marcus. We had a pretty chill setup, 2 rooms upstairs, 2 downstairs, and a shared living room with an old PlayStation we'd argue over almost nightly. One weekend in October, Tyler and Marcus went home to visit family, so it was just me and Ben in the house. We were up late Friday night watching movies, then Ben said he was going to crash. I stayed up, scrolling my phone in the living room for maybe another hour before heading to bed. Sometime around 3:30 a.m., I woke up to a voice calling me. "Yo! Jason, you up?" It was Ben's voice. But it sounded weird, like strained or winded. Still, I answered groggily, "Yeah, what's up?" No response. I sat up, figuring maybe he needed something, and I opened my bedroom door. His door, right across the hall, was wide open. Lights off. "Ben?" I whispered. Nothing. Then I heard it again. But this time, it came from downstairs. "Jason, come here. I need help." Chills ran up my spine. Because if Ben had gone downstairs, I would have heard it, the floorboards creaked like crazy in that house. And I hadn't heard a single step. Still, I called out, "Ben? What's going on?" Silence. I grabbed my phone and went to the top of the stairs. The living room light was off. Total darkness. But I could feel someone was down there. I texted Ben, "Are you downstairs?" He replied instantly, "No. I'm in bed." "Why?" My hands went numb. I backed into my room and locked the door. Told Ben to do the same. We stayed locked in until sunrise. Didn't sleep. Didn't speak. When we finally got the nerve to check the house in the morning, everything seemed normal. Except for one thing. The basement door, which we always kept closed, was wide open. And on the steps, in the dust we never cleaned, were bare footprints. Leading up. But not back down. 8. The wrong passenger. I used to drive for a rideshare app when I was between jobs, mostly nights, since the rates were better and traffic was lighter. It was routine: drive, listen to music, pick up drunk people from bars, make a little cash. But one night changed everything. It was a Thursday around 11:45 p.m. I was parked near a closed gas station when I got a ping, pickup location, Eaton in Ridgewood. Kind of an isolated road, barely any street lights. But whatever, I'd been there before. I pulled up to the spot. Nobody was outside, but sometimes passengers take a minute. I waited. About 30 seconds later, someone approached the car. It was a woman, probably late 30s, wearing a faded hoodie and long skirt. She didn't say a word, just opened the back door and got in. Hi," I said. "You mind confirming your name?" No answer. I turned around. "Sorry, just need your name to make sure it's the right ride." She stared ahead, expressionless. I asked again. Nothing. I started to get uneasy. "Ma'am, I can't start the ride until you confirm your name." She turned slowly toward me and whispered, "You already know it." My heart skipped. I stared at her. Her face was pale. Eyes wide open. Almost glassy. Then I checked the app again and realized the ride had been canceled 2 minutes ago. I immediately said, "I'm sorry, I'm not authorized to drive you. I need you to leave the car." She didn't move. Just sat there. I reached for my phone to call support. When I glanced back, she was gone. Door never opened. No sound. No movement. Just gone. I jumped out of the car and looked around. Empty street. Nothing but shadows and trees. I reported it to the company. They said no one had ever ordered a ride from that location under any active account. Weeks later, I was scrolling through local news and came across a photo in a cold case article. A woman had gone missing 3 years ago, last seen walking near Eaton and Ridgewood. Same hoodie. Same face. They never found her body. And some nights, when I'm driving near that part of town, my app glitches and shows a rider request from her name, with the note, "You already know it." 9. The kid in the window wasn't ours. My cousin Mia lives in an old Victorian house in Vermont, 3 stories, creaky floors, and that constant feeling that someone's watching. I stayed with her family for a week last summer to help watch her twin boys while her husband was away on a work trip. They're 5 years old, energetic, loud, impossible to confuse with anyone else. One evening, just before dinner, Mia asked me to call the boys down from the playroom upstairs. I walked up, called their names. No answer. I peeked into the playroom. Empty. "Guys?" I called again. Then I heard their voices, faint, coming from the backyard. I went back downstairs, and sure enough, both boys were outside in the grass, chasing each other with toy swords. I told Mia they were already outside, thought they were upstairs. She blinked. No, they went up 10 minutes ago. I never saw them go outside. We both looked out the window. The boys were laughing, rolling on the grass. Totally normal. But then Mia froze. Her eyes widened, and she whispered, "Don't move." I followed her gaze. One of the upstairs windows, the playroom window, had a face in it. A child's face. Pale. Expressionless. Not either of the twins. Just watching us. I ran out the back door and yelled for the boys to come inside. Mia grabbed the phone and called the police while I ran upstairs. The room was empty. Every closet, every corner, nothing. The window was shut. But there was something left behind on the windowsill. A small, wooden soldier toy. Mia said she'd never seen it before, and her boys didn't recognize it either. That night, after the twins were asleep, Mia told me something she hadn't shared before. When we bought the house, she said, the realtor told us the original owner had lost a son. He fell from that window. I asked how old the boy was. She looked at me, pale. 5. We never saw the face again. But every now and then, the wooden soldier moves. No one touches it. But it's never in the same place twice. 10. I watched myself walk by. It was 2:17 a.m. when it happened. I remember the exact time because I had just finished a late shift and was waiting for my food delivery. I live alone in a small apartment on the 3rd floor of an old building in Philadelphia. My desk faces the hallway window, which gives a direct view of the front entrance downstairs. I like to keep the hallway light off at night. It feels more peaceful. The only illumination comes from the street lamp outside, which casts a soft orange glow through the stairwell. That night, I was on my laptop, absent-mindedly glancing toward the hallway window now and then to see if the delivery guy had arrived. Then I saw someone coming through the front door. At first I didn't react, just figured it was a neighbor. But then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The person who walked in was me. Same clothes. Same posture. Same everything, down to the stain on my left sleeve from dinner. I watched myself casually walk up the stairs. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. The version of me didn't look around. He just kept walking up. And then he disappeared, right at the landing in front of my apartment door. I stood up, heart racing, and opened my own door just a crack. The hallway was empty. I closed it, locked it, bolted it. Then came the knock. 3 soft knocks on the door, like someone politely trying not to wake a baby. I backed away slowly. Then came the voice. My voice. "Hey, it's me. You forgot something." No panic. No aggression. Just calm and familiar. I didn't answer. Eventually, the knocks stopped. And the footsteps went back down the stairs. I waited 15 minutes before looking out the window again. There was nothing there. But the next morning, when I opened my door to head to work, I nearly screamed. There was a package on the floor. Unmarked. Inside was a hoodie. The same one I had been wearing the night before. Only, I still had mine. I checked the hallway cameras later that day. At 2:17 a.m., the footage glitches. For 7 full seconds, just static. And when the image returned, the hallway was empty. But I know what I saw. I watched myself walk by. And I'm terrified that next time, he won't knock. If you're still awake, maybe leave a light on tonight. And remember, some stories are only scary because they're true. Subscribe for more.